Episode 391 is live tonight. I will be recapping Impact Wrestling Rebellion pay-per-view, which just finished up. Who walked out of Ultimate X as the Impact World Tag Team Champions? Which team was victorious in the Hardcore War? Who is the new Impact World Champion? Who is the new Impact Knockouts Champion? We'll discuss all of that and much more right here, right now. 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Welcome, Wrestling Fanatics, to a special live episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic right here on Spreaker or wherever you listen to 360 Wrestling Podcast at. Thank you for tuning in. I am Lance Brock, and tonight I'm going to talk about Impact Wrestling Rebellion. Like I said, this is a special live episode, and I've been thinking, I've done this the last few times when I recapped the pay-per-view premium live event. So I was thinking that I might do this for all the pay-per-views, PLEs, any of the big events. When I do the post show after, might go live for those ones. Have for the last few WWE premium live events, the last AEW pay-per-view, and now Impact Wrestling Rebellion live right here on Spreaker. So like I said, not making any promises for sure, but might try to do that for the pay-per-views, the big events, go live right after the shows conclude, go off the air. Let me know if that's something you'll be interested in the comment section here on Spreaker or wherever you are listening. But tonight, it is all about Impact Wrestling Rebellion, live from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, at the Rebel Entertainment Complex, which never been there before, but the Impact events that I have watched there before does seem like a pretty good venue to watch pro wrestling live in. What I understand, it's usually more for concerts and things like that. But just watching it on TV, it kind of looks like it could be a pretty good venue to watch live pro wrestling in. And our commentators tonight, Tom Hannafan and the Drama King, Matt Raywalt, which I've always talked about how I enjoy these two as a team on commentary. And recently it was announced that Tom Hannafan has re-signed with Impact Wrestling. And we start things off with the countdown to Rebellion tag team action. Champagne Singh and Shira taking on Rhino and Heath. And our second match on the Countdown show, the Impact Wrestling Knockouts Tag Team Championships are on the line as the Coven, Taylor Wilde and Kylie King take on Death Dolls, Rosemary and Jessica, who want revenge against the Coven for the disappearance of Taya Valkyrie. But it is the Coven getting the win in this match to retain the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championships. And now on to the main pay-per-view, and we start things off. Ultimate X for the Impact World Tag Team Championships. Impact does this quite a bit when they do have an Ultimate X. Of course, normally it is for the X Division Championship or a title shot at the X Division Championship. But this time is for the tag team titles. And I like how Impact does that. Start off with something, a lot of fast-paced action to get people into the show. It is the Impact World Tag Team Champions representing the Bullet Club, ABC, Ace Austin, and Chris Bay taking on the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin, and Alex Shelley. I talked about this match on GMWF this morning. I said this one could possibly steal the show, and I was correct. This one, really good match here between these two teams. And in the end, the winners of the match are Ace Austin and Chris Bay to retain the Impact Tag Team titles. 12 minutes, 43 seconds. Very good opener on this Rebellion pay-per-view. Definitely recommend checking this match out if for some reason you missed it. Next up, we have a 4-on-3 handicap match. Dirty Dango, the Impact Digital Media Champion, Joe Hendry, and the Impact Wrestling Director of Authority, Santino Marella, in his home country of Canada, not Italy, taking on the Design, Diener, Alan Angels, Khan, and Sami Callihan. Pretty good match here, and at one point Santino Marella is in trouble. Callihan and Diener have a baseball bat in the ring. Diener hands the bat to Callihan. Callihan is about to take out Marella, but then he turns around and hits Diener with the bat, turning against the Design. And then he takes Diener up the ramp and out of the arena. So now it is 3-on-3. Santino Marella gets the sock out, or Cobra, I should say, and or he didn't take, my mistake. Callihan did not take Diener out. Him leaving made it 3-on-3. My mistake. Sorry about that. Marella hit Diener with the Cobra, pinning him to get the win here. Pretty good match. And as it was mentioned tonight by the commentators, was the first time Santino Marella's son seen him wrestling live, and he was in the crowd at Rebellion tonight. And I thought the commentary did a pretty good job in getting that over. Next up is the last rights match. Eddie Edwards with Alicia in his corner, taking on the French-Canadian Frankenstein, PCO. This one was a little different than the other last rights match I talked about before back in 2007 with Sting and the Monster Abyss, which in that one, not only did you have to put your opponent in the casket, but you had to raise it up to the ceiling, which not only did they do that, but they had the lights go out, bunch of smoke, different things like that. And that got the Impact Zone crowd in Orlando at the time to start chanting Fire Russo. But this one was more of just a regular casket match. And I haven't mentioned this yet, but they had, when they're at the Rebel Complex, they have the ramp that is more of like the runway ramp that goes all the way to the ring, which I do like. I am definitely a fan of wrestling promotions having that for an entrance. And brutal match here, PCO getting busted open, but it is PCO picking up the win, putting Eddie Edwards in the casket to get the win in this last rights match at 13 minutes 44 seconds. I thought this one was actually pretty good. I don't know if I would say was the best match on the card, but still a good one here. PCO victorious. So I'm guessing this is the end of the feud between PCO and Edwards. Next up on Rebellion is a 3-way elimination match for the Impact Wrestling X Division Championship. Trey Miguel defending against the Octopus Jonathan Gresham and Speedball Mike Bailey. Another one that I talked about on the preview this morning on GMWF. I said this one could be one that could steal the show possibly, and it did not disappoint. Really good match between these three, and it wasn't like one of those the 3-way triple threat matches you normally see in WWE, where a lot of times you see one of the guys go out and have a little rest, and then the two guys in the ring go at it for a little while. But this one, most of them, all three of them were going at it at the same time. And Jonathan Gresham is the first who is eliminated from this one, and it is now down between Trey Miguel and Speedball. Have a very good match between these two, but it is Trey Miguel getting the win over Speedball Mike Bailey with a handful of tights at 13 minutes 55 seconds. Trey Miguel retaining the Impact X Division Championship tonight at Rebellion. Very good match though. I don't know if I would say maybe match of the night, but close though. Very good match. It is now time for the Hardcore War. And Team Dreamer taking on Team Bully. Earlier in the night, there was an interview with Team Dreamer. Very emotional interview from Tommy Dreamer, talking about his mother, who is not doing very well right now. Very, like I said, very powerful, very emotional from Tommy Dreamer. And we go into the match now. Hardcore War. Team Bully getting the man advantage last Thursday night on Impact when Kenny King won that match. And starting things off, representing Team Bully, we have Moose. And then from Team Dreamer, Frankie Kazarian. Of course, we have weapons at tables at ringside. And next up from Team Bully is Brian Myers. And then Gupinder Gujar from Team Dreamer. And next up, King, Kenny King is out now. And then representing Tommy Dreamer after that, Killer Kelly. And she comes out. She goes toe-to-toe with the guys in the match. And then next up, from Team Bully, Masha Slamovich. And then Yui Uemura. And the baby faces are standing tall at this time. And then it is time for Bully Ray to get into the match. He comes out with a table. And he stays on the ramp for a few seconds, distracting the baby faces as the rest of Team Bully get in the ring from behind to attack Team Dreamer. And now it is the final entry in this match. Tommy Dreamer, the captain of his team. And then at one point here, there is a spot where everyone has a submission locked in all at the same time. And then the ladies even get sleepers in at this time on the guys. And then they let go. And then they go to opposite sides of the ring, pull out steel chairs, and then start hitting the guys. And there's a staple gun involved, a cheese grater. And at one point, Bully Ray does what he did at Sacrifice, I think was the show, where he climbed the ladder and was going to do a splash on Bully Ray through a table. He tried to have the referees hold the ladder for him again, but they would not do it. They have had enough of Bully Ray. He got in their faces, and then finally the referees start attacking Bully Ray, and then that allows Tommy Dreamer to get the advantage, puts Bully on the table. He climbs the ladder, and then the referees hold the ladder for Dreamer. He does a superfly splash off the ladder onto Bully Ray through the table, and this gets the 3 count. Team Dreamer defeats Team Bully in Hardcore War. Very good match, I thought. Was it a 5-star classic pro wrestling match? No, but that shouldn't have been what you were expecting in this one. Knew it was going to be a no-holds-barred, anything-goes street fight kind of match. And for what that is, I definitely enjoyed this one. And next up on Rebellion, our 2 main events are next. First, for the Impact Wrestling World Championship, after Josh Alexander had a record-setting reign as Impact World Champion. With the torn tricep injury, he had to give up the title. So that is why we are guaranteed a new Impact World Champion here tonight. It is Steve Maclin taking on Kushida. And they really drive the point home. Kushida, living in Canada at one time, came here, or there I should say, in 2009 to train at Scott D'Amore's Can-Am Wrestling School in Windsor. He even comes out with the Canadian flag, gets a big reaction from the Canadian crowd. They were at the Rebel Entertainment Complex. These two, really good match, I thought. And I know you had two good wrestlers going into this match, but it was even a little better than I thought it would be. Macklin had the advantage for the first part of the match, but Kushida came back, looked very impressive, and Kushida even kicked out of the KIA, which has been a protected finishing move, has not been kicked out of. So when Kushida kicked out of it in this match, it was a big deal. And Kushida gets the hoverboard locked in, but Steve Macklin is able to fight out of it. And the finish of this match sees Steve Macklin defeat Kushida 18 minutes, 31 seconds. New Impact Wrestling World Champion Steve Macklin. Very good match. And before I forget, we have a special guest commentator for this match, making his return to Impact Wrestling, former Impact World Champion, former NWA World Champion, the National Treasure, Nick Aldis. Of course, I'm sure if you are a longtime TNA/Impact fan, you remember him as Magnus, former TNA World Champion and World Tag Team Champion as the British Invasion. And he was on commentary with Tom Hannafan and Matthew Raywalt during this one. And Steve Macklin, the new Impact World Champion, does not want the referee to hand him the world title. He brought up the point that during the face-to-face on a recent episode of Impact Wrestling, Scott D'Amore said that if Macklin becomes the new Impact World Champion, that he will hand him the world title in the middle of the ring. So then we see Scott D'Amore make his way out to the ring and hands him the world title, kind of pushes it to him, but Macklin turns around though, and then he wants D'Amore to put the title around his waist for him, but D'Amore isn't having any of that. He turns him around, pushes the title into his chest, and says, "Congratulations." D'Amore definitely not happy about Macklin becoming the new world champion. He turns around, and then when D'Amore turns his back, Macklin hits D'Amore with the world championship right to the back. And Nick Aldis, still on commentary, isn't going to stand for this. He gets in the ring and confronts Macklin, but Macklin exits the ring as the new Impact Wrestling World Champion. So the return of Nick Aldis now in Impact Wrestling, it looks like he could be possibly the next challenger, or the first challenger, I should say, for Steve Macklin as the new world champion. I don't know if we will see that possibly on one of the Impact Plus specials in the next couple months, or if this could go to, I want to say maybe, is it the beginning of July, is Slammiversary this year in Windsor. But it kind of looks like they are setting up for Steve Macklin to defend against Nick Aldis, which I'm sure could be a very good match. And Dave Macklin, his wife, is in action next in the main event to crown a new Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion. Deonna Purrazzo taking on Jordynne Grace after the former champion Mickie James was not able to get cleared to compete tonight at Rebellion. So that is why we have this one-on-one match with the Knockouts Championship on the line. Probably two of the best women's pro wrestlers in pro wrestling today. Deonna Purrazzo and Jordynne Grace. And this is actually their first singles match in front of fans. Their first singles match before was during COVID, and then back when they were at Skyway Studios in Nashville. And great main event, I thought here. Deonna Purrazzo and Jordynne Grace. Great match here, and definitely an entertaining main event. Deonna Purrazzo gets the win at 17 minutes, 8 seconds to become the new Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion, Deonna Purrazzo. And as Rebellion goes off the air, almost right up to 11 p.m. Eastern, and that was Impact Wrestling Rebellion on pay-per-view tonight, and I thought it was a great show. Some great wrestling. I didn't think there was a bad match on the show. There was a couple matches I wouldn't say they were great, but they were good though. And some other matches, kicking off with the Ultimate X for the tag titles, Bullet Club and Motor City Machine Guns. The 4-on-3 handicap match was actually better than I thought it would be. The Last Rites match was okay. The X Division 3-way, pretty good as well. The Hardcore War, very entertaining. And of course, the two co-main events tonight, the two major championships, which they kept bringing up that this is the first time for a major wrestling company or major wrestling promotion, I should say, to have both their major titles vacant and guaranteed new champions. Tom Hannafan definitely mentioned that a few times tonight. So that was Impact Wrestling Rebellion, and I just want to say, great pay-per-view, I thought. Definitely, if you missed it tonight, definitely worth checking out the replay on Fight TV or your cable or satellite provider. If you did not see it, I definitely recommend checking it out. Definitely worth it. Impact Wrestling has been on a roll as of late. These great pay-per-views, the Impact Plus specials, the Impact TV. I just have been great as of late. I know a lot of people kind of gave up back in in the down days when it was still known as TNA, but I always say you should give Impact a chance. It has very good in-ring product right now. The booking has improved very much from some of the TNA days. So do yourself a favor and check out Impact Wrestling if you haven't been watching it as of late. And thank you for tuning into this special live episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. If you are listening live now, or if you're listening to it after the podcast version, thank you. And either here on Spreaker or wherever you listen to 360 Wrestling Podcast, hope to have more episodes of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. And like I said, I might try to keep this going right after the pay-per-views, premium live events, whichever you want to call them, the big pro wrestling events. Might do a live episode right after. And we'll be back tomorrow morning for the Monday morning episode of GMWF. Once again, thank you everyone for listening to this episode 391 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Remember, as always, if you have any questions or comments, suggestions, 360 Wrestling Podcast at gmail.com, or you can leave them in the comments section as you're listening, either here on Spreaker or wherever you listen to 360 Wrestling Podcasts at. Until tomorrow morning, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.